Have you been looking for a way to stay focused on your goals and grow your MSP? Accountability groups from RocketMSP can help. We offer weekly accountability sessions that meet online with a group of your peers. Your success begins with accountability. Go to www.rocketmsp.io to join your accountability group today.
All right, guys, we are live on YouTube.
Oh, scary.
I know, right? So welcome, everyone, to another installment of MSP webinars. Today, we're going to talk about a fun topic, one that never gets old. And I'm hearing myself because I forgot to close the YouTube tab because I'm a genius. So this is a topic that never gets old, right? Ernest, what PSA are you using?
Kaseya.
David, what PSA are you using? You're muted or something.
ConnectWise.
All right, Matt. PSA.
ConnectWise.
I'm using Autotask. Why aren't we all just using the same one? I mean, there's got to be just a magical reason that like one should just be the winner, right?
Not the truth. Nope.
So we're going to talk about our stacks and why we went with what we went with, and we'll even talk about if you had to do it all over again. We'll talk about if you plan on making any changes in the foreseeable future, that kind of stuff. And we will definitely have time for Q&A from everybody. In the top left of your screens, those of you that are attendees, there's a button that says Q&A. It might not show up until you're moving your mouse around on our pretty picture, on our pretty faces, but that's there, and you can pop the questions in the Q&A section. If you put them in chat, they just may get lost because we may have 100 people here today, guys. I'm just going to keep it real, okay? So definitely try and use the Q&A section. So PSA. We already kind of asked that. Zach, I forget what one you're using.
MSP Manager.
I don't even know what that is.
It's from SolarWinds.
Oh, it's that one.
And there's a good reason for that. I'm part of a group that SolarWinds runs internally called the User Experience VIP group. Basically, I work with their devs to make it not crappy.
Now, is that the one that used to be the SolarWinds? What the hell were they? The GFI Max Dog Solar?
Yes,
panel,
those guys. Well,
Logic
Hound
Now,
Dog,
yes.
GFI Max, Hound Dog, GFI Max, Logic Now, then SolarWinds. That is the correct progression. And I lived through all of that.
There we go. All right, so Ernest, you said you're using
Kaseya and Kaseya, yeah, both a full Kaseya stack at this point.
So I actually, just because I know everyone's going to laugh at me for this, about 42 minutes ago, I signed up for a trial of BMS just because I wanted to see if it was any good or not.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I'm really enjoying it. We don't use it for any billing or finance. We just use it as a straight ticket system in CRM, and as ticketing in CRM, it works fantastic. It does it. I wish they would do a true mobile app for it. Is the one concern I would have with it, but otherwise, it has pretty much everything else that we need.
So I gotta ask the silly question:
Mm-hmm.
If you're literally just using it as well, I guess it's not too expensive at $25 a user, but if you're just using it as a ticketing system, why not just use Zendesk?
That's a great question, and the reason is because as partners of the 20, it's part of the requirements. So that's why we're using it. It's part of what comes with the 20.
I thought ConnectWise was part of the 20.
Nope. There was a major news, made big headlines in our industry several months ago when the 20 switched from a full ConnectWise stack to a full Kaseya stack.
Okay. Now, so that explains why you're using what you're using. Your hands are kind of tied.
Yes, very much so.
But with that, with the 20, you also have a lot of cool things that come with that when it comes to additional support and just back office stuff that comes with the 20, right? Okay. For those of you that are not familiar with the 20, we can't really talk about it because you have to sign an NDA. I'm not in the 20 because I just didn't feel like it was for me. But if you go to, I think it's the20.com, you can learn more about the 20, and it's a really cool program. Ernest, how would you describe the 20? I feel like the 20 is like turning your business into a franchise that you still 100% own.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Continuum 2.0 is another way to look at it. They have a very interesting. The 20 is really cool for businesses that are looking to grow and expand, and that don't want to deal with the day-to-day operations of stuff.
Got it. David, I believe you said you are on ConnectWise.
Yes.
What were you on before ConnectWise?
Very briefly on the GFI Max Dog Logic platform. And then I quickly signed up for ConnectWise after that.
When you say ConnectWise, do you mean ConnectWise Automate plus ConnectWise Manage, or?
Yeah, I'm the full ConnectWise stack with a ConnectWise, LabTech, and Quozel.
Right. Okay. And when you say you switched from Hound Logic Dog Max, were you on like Service Desk plus SolarWinds RMM or N-Central? Like, what were you using?
I was I was using Max Logic Dog as my RMM at the time, and I hadn't yet signed. I'd signed up for their MSP Service Desk, their version of the PSA, but I hadn't really gotten around to using it yet.
Right.
I was in the very beginning.
Because I want to point out for people who don't know, SolarWinds actually has 3 different help desk tools. There's MSP Manager, which they are road mapping to be somewhat like a PSA. They don't claim it's a PSA right now, but that's what they want to do with it. Mm-hmm. Service Desk is a SaaS-based help desk, ticketing only. It integrates with the RMM. And then there's a third that's an actual on-prem solution, which nobody ever uses. It's geared towards internal IT and that sort of stuff. I don't even remember what it's called, but it's not really a player, but people should be aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, I switched away before I really got plugged into the rest of that ecosystem.
Now, yeah, MSP Manager, I feel like there was Vorex and another one that looked very much like Vorex. And Vorex is the one that turned into Kaseya, BMA, BSA.
BMS,
yeah, that's it. And then the other one was bought out by SolarWinds.
Correct.
What on earth was that other one called? Because it's been bothering me for weeks.
Oh, I used to know because like all of their training documentation kind of referenced it, like the YouTube videos and stuff, like were all the guys that used to work for that company. And like they would occasionally mention it, but I honestly don't remember either.
Okay. Do you feel like your PSA is Vorex, Kaseya, BMS, Pulseway all seem to be the same Capture, that's what it was. All seem to be the same product. I don't know about all that. Pulseway, I haven't actually looked at Pulseway's PSA because I just kind of got aggravated with Pulseway at their inability to do any type of monthly pricing when I was looking at them. They wanted to, I don't think that their per device price was bad. It just was unfortunate that it was annual.
Huh. No, he's right. He's right. If you look at the screenshots, it is the same product. I'd never noticed that. It's a
Interesting.
rebranded Kaseya BMS.
Now I have to look just to, because that doesn't seem right. Oh my gosh, you're right.
Crazy, huh?
Oh my gosh, you're right. Oh boy. Well, that's fun. So let's
So what
see.
you're saying is you get Kaseya BMS without all the integration?
Probably.
So let's finish up the PSA portion of our stack by saying, what one thing do you absolutely love about your PSA, Matt?
So we had a weird situation. So I started the business about 2 years ago, so we're fairly new. I started out with the ConnectWise automate and manage stack, and then I figured it was just me. So I was like, yeah, ConnectWise is a little too big for me. It kept LabTech. I mean, you have to have that. But so with ConnectWise, we got rid of it. We went to a couple of free CRMs. It turned out to be an absolute nightmare. So we just got it back, I'd say 2-3 weeks ago, finally. I'm just integrating Desk Director. I know you hate it, or somebody hates it. I forget who it was, but so integrating that, yeah. So integrating that now. No, just that it integrates with, because we use IT Glue and a lot of other stuff, and Repl and a lot of other things that it just send tickets to. It's great, and plus the dynamic forms with Desk Director is awesome.
Now, I just want to clarify. I didn't like Desk Director because it has the technician side of the software as well, and it didn't seem to work very well for me with the Autotask integration. Now, this was also sometime at the beginning of 2017, or maybe even the end of 2016 when I tried it out. So it's been a while. They might have fixed it since, but I was having to reach out to support every single day to get them to close out tickets on the back end that have already been closed and completed in Autotask.
It's still a little sketchy. I just got the Windows native app, and it comes with it's unpublished. So Windows picks it up as do you really want to install this? This is no cert on this. So there's definitely
lovely.
Yeah, it's awesome. So definitely some ways to go on it.
Ernest, what one thing do you love about Kaseya BMS?
Workflow rules. Workflow rules allow you to set up triggers for just about anything that a ticket can do, any changes that can be made to a ticket, and allows you to set up automations in terms of emails that go out, or changing statuses, or assigning it to somebody, or SLAs, or anything else you could imagine on a ticket. Allows you to update that information on the ticket. So the workflows are very powerful.
Excellent. David, what's your favorite thing about ConnectWise?
I'd say my favorite thing is probably also my least favorite thing about ConnectWise, which is that it does everything for your business. It's great because you can do everything for your business in it. You handle projects and ticketing and billing and invoicing and payments and the customer portal. It does everything, but also if you want to do everything with it, you got to do everything with it. You really have to invest a whole lot into it to make it really sing for you.
That is very true. Zach, what's your favorite thing about SolarWinds MSP Manager?
Right now, just out of the box, it doesn't take a lot to just hit the ground running. And I'm saying that from a potential perspective of somebody just starting out, right? It doesn't do a whole lot, but that's of the more advanced things. that you guys are talking about, the workflow rules and things like that. But those are actually kind of the things I'm working on with SolarWinds to get it doing that better. And that's one of the big reasons I'm in it is they asked me to. They asked me to do this, and I stepped away from ConnectWise actually to do this, and it puts me in an odd position because I'm using something that's probably not the best tool for me, but like I'm working towards making it better, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, like it is great being, directly tied in with the devs and the product managers, because like when I was in the 6-month beta for their RMM integration to MSP Manager, because this thing's been tied in with N Central for a couple of years now. But like in that 6 months, I wrote lots of like, I want this, I want that. And by the end of the beta, I had it all. So it has ticket queues now. It has basic workflow routing for ticket routing. It has skill level routing. Like I can route tickets to techs based on their specialties, like who's good at what, which is pretty cool. And that's right now is one of the great things that I like about it is like I've got various issue types going into different bins that I watch that let me kind of like, okay, these are the important things, these are the things I can deal with later, and it kind of lets me sort those into queues automatically.
Excellent. Now we have 2 questions. What is Desk Director? Matt, you want to take that?
Yeah, so Desk Director, it's a third-party tool that's built on top of ConnectWise. So if you ever use ConnectWise ticketing or client portal, it's absolutely atrocious. And for us, and well, for me personally, I really like branding. I hate like the generic emails that look absolutely ugly. So it takes that on the client side and just pretties it up. So you can do 2 ways. They have a web portal, or you pay extra for like a Windows installation. So users can just open up an icon in your system tray or on their desktop, and then they can open a ticket right there, and they get notifications when you update it. So it makes the process for them prettier and easier. You can also use like dynamic forms. So if they say like, oh, my internet's down, for example, you can say, okay, so your internet's down. Have you checked XYZ? What exactly is down? Because a lot of times, you get calls that, oh, my internet's down, and it turns out that they can't open Chrome for some reason. So it does a lot of those dynamic forms. It can kind of weed out a lot of problems and give you the exact details, so you can answer them immediately without having to go back and forth. It's just extra. Right now, I'm still trying to test it out and see if it's actually worth the $100 plus $50 for the Windows installer per month. We'll see.
So I would like to say that Desk Director is cool. However, I've looked at a different solution called really. I've looked at a separate one called Envirosoft. I did put the link in the chat.
You see the price on that too?
Yeah, Envirosoft is $250 for actually $350 if you want all the features. But how much is Desk Director if you want the same features? $350.
Oh, I thought it was a little more.
Well, it also depends on how many endpoints you're pushing it out to. But for 500 endpoints, or 500 users, I should say, it's $350. And with Envirosoft, it's cool because it has the ability for them to check out their tickets, make new tickets, respond, do all that stuff. It has a little news section, so you can give them updates on whatever you want to update them on, which is nice to be able to update all the end users and not just your primary point of contact. And then below that, it has the apps panel, which I think is sorry, I'm laughing at David. So it also has the apps panel, which is how do I put this? You can put links to applications, URLs, or even command prompt commands. So you could have something that, or remote desktop. So you could have something that opens up their terminal server connection, something that opens up their Office 365 email on the web, something that opens up Word locally, and something that they can click because for whatever reason, this guy just somehow screws up his computer and always makes it so that way his S drive disappears. So you made a little button that he can click in his app panel that remaps his S drive for him.
Can I run batch commands or PowerShell scripts from those little buttons?
Sure.
Nice. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, and because it's not only an application on the desktop, but it is an app they can use from their iPhone, Android, whatever. At this time, I don't think you can do quotes or invoices, but they are working on it. They also want to eventually be able to go toe-to-toe with Connect Booster. Just so you guys know that as well. They want to be able to have the ability to pay your invoices through EnviroSoft. Hope that helps. What is your guys' opinion on open source PSA solutions?
Pass. I contact support too much to have open source.
I'm right there with you.
For me, I think that the tool is almost irrelevant. What's really important is the ecosystem around it. And you just don't have a lot of that with the smaller open source PSAs and CRMs.
Right. And I want to add to that. Basically, like, open source becomes useful and powerful if you have the skill set to make it do what you want. That is like a software engineer or using it as a framework to build some internal app, and that comes into play at certain levels, right? But like one of the many things people don't understand about open source is like you have to be able to support it yourself, and that requires a high level of skill, and that skill is expensive. So open source solutions wind up having a TCO that's actually much higher than regular commerocial products, and that's
Not
just
always.
like the hard.
I
Not
mean,
always, but
look at PFSense. I mean, theoretically, I mean, not all open source is created equally. Like if you look at tools like PFSense, that's actually a solid firewall.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree.
Just firewall, not a UTM, but.
Right. Well, I mean, it integrates with Snort, and like if you want to run Snort and then get a paid signature subscription to tie into it, I mean, that's very viable. There's lots of ways you can kind of skin that cat, and PFSense is a great example because there's so much inexpensive hardware that you can slap it on out there and get it out there. I mean, one of their big weaknesses is centrally managing a bunch of PFSense boxes, but if you want to go and pay for that capability, you actually can. And then all of a sudden, you're right back into a commercial product. So, like, it's a matter of perspective and scale, and, like, you really, really need to evaluate if it's a good fit. I mean, if you've got, like, a hot shot, like, software developer who can just, like, take that code base and make it whatever you want, and he's inexpensive, or he's a business partner or whatever, and he's invested in the company, I mean, like, it becomes viable. I mean, we use several open source solutions to various things that are pretty high level, and the lack of upfront licensing costs and the fact that we have the skill set on staff to make them do what we want and we can support them, like, has really added to our flexibility. Like, as an example, we use Nginx reverse proxies to brand other portals. So, like, if we have a vendor portal that we want to present to our customers, we can connect it to an Nginx proxy and a reverse proxy, and then, like, we can actually swap logos, swap text in the portals dynamically as they're being presented to the customers. So if we, because we like to, we don't like to reveal our vendors to our clients. Like, we want them to feel that, like, you know, our name is tied to all of the products they're using. And so we actually, that's one of the things we do. Now, obviously, we get permission to do that sort of thing, you know, from the vendors. But, you know, those that don't have branding options, like, we can actually brand other portals. And, you know, using things like a reverse proxy and like SSL forwarding, like, we can do a lot of really crazy things. And there's not really a commercial product out there that does that sort of thing, like, you know, without spending a lot of money. And I'm thinking of things like NetScalers and, you know, other large commercial products that are, you know, designed for mass scale. And so that's kind of like where I stand on it.
Speaking of pfSense and central management, Dom said that they were supposed to have a PF Center management tool, but he's not sure if that's out. And I don't really see anything other than forum topics, so I don't think it's out either. Zach, what are you missing the most in MSP Manager, and is it in the pipeline?
Right now, the biggest, like, hot button issue I have is the QuickBooks Online integration. Is actually implemented in our estimation, like, very poorly. And so, like, I raised holy hell about that because it caught, like, my accounting department just, like, nearly rioted.
Oh, well, that's bad.
Right, yeah. For those of you who don't know, the way they integrate with QuickBooks Online is you go into QuickBooks Online and you create broad services and products. So you create service plans and billable rates and things like that, and then it uses like 4 or 5 specific broad category product, like broadly defined products in QuickBooks, and then just inserts line items under as like in the descriptions, and then prices. Which, like, if you have any sort of like advanced accounting going on, like, that's just unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, according to my accountant, like, that just drastically screwed up like our accounts receivables reporting. It completely messed up like how they're tracking profitability, and it was just like, this is not going to work. So one of the things we're working on with the devs is, like, I'm trying to work with them to get one-to-one mapping in QuickBooks Online with service items. So you can create, like, service item A maps to a specific service item A product or service in QuickBooks. And so then you map them all at once, rather than to, like, these simplified broad categories. Now, the ideology behind the way they did that was, so if you're just, like, starting out and you don't want to spend a lot of time getting set up and you need to get out there and make money, like, that'll work. And so I acknowledge that was, you know, a clever idea to get somebody running on the ground. But once a business has matured, like, that's unacceptable. So, like, you need to make it an option to do a more advanced integration. And they totally agreed, and they're road mapping, like, that changes to that right now. I'm not sure when in the cycle it's going to come out, but they agreed with my assessment.
I'm sure it'll be sooner than the next Autotask update. With that said, let's move on to RMM tools. So Dom said, how does Pulseway compare to Atera? I'm looking at the RMM options on the cheaper end. So I just want to say, there's so many things that we could say to that. There are probably some mean things that we could say to that. I put in the chat a link to the RMM comparison spreadsheet that I started. Gosh, how long ago did I start that, guys? A year ago? More? I don't know, whatever. It has taken, like, a mind of its own, because everyone is able to contribute to it as long as you request permission to edit the thing. But you'll be able to see a true comparison between all of the different RMM tools, including Atera, Pulseway, and even the free one, Komodo, which, okay. So, so Matt, what RMM tool are you using?
LabTech,
Okay.
Automate, whatever.
And Ernest, we know you're on Kaseya. You love it.
Yeah, it's all right. It does what it needs to do.
Do you miss Continuum?
I do.
Oh man. David
I use LabTech as well.
and Zach, you are SolarWinds.
Yeah, Solar Dog wins now.
Solar Dog Max wins. I
RMM.
am on Autotask Endpoint Manager. I gotta say, I've actually been starting to have some struggles with Autotask Endpoint Manager. So, you guys, for those of you that are in the Discord group, you probably have seen me say something along the lines of, "I think I'm going to be switching to Kaseya soon." So, I just want to say, full disclosure, I think I still have 8 months left or so on my contract. So, I'm still 8 months out from being able to make any changes without costing myself a ton of money.
They
However,
didn't
when
make
that
you
time,
sign a 5-year plan?
22 years.
22 years. Okay, good.
No, it was a 2 year. So 24-month agreement with Autotask. The big problems that I'm having right now with Autotask Endpoint Manager all revolve around automation, and even more specifically, they revolve around the user-defined fields and variables. So I've got variables. Like we're just gonna pick one thing right now, Cisco Umbrella. So I've got the ability to deploy Cisco Umbrella using using a script. And I'm sure for those of you that know Cisco Umbrella, it's got those 3 codes that you need: your ID, the customer ID, and whatever that other ID is. So the script, you got to punch all 3 of those IDs in. So what I did was I made 3 variables for each customer with those 3 IDs. And then a script that references those 3 variables. If I run that script manually on a computer or a group of computers, it runs just fine. If I automate that script to run every week on Tuesday, it doesn't run just fine. And in fact, it installs Umbrella without any of the variables. So it just installs a big red dot into the system tray that literally doesn't do anything because it is not synchronized or integrated or whatever the term is with Umbrella. So it's just stupid little things like that that are making me think like, all right, if I'm going to get an RMM tool because I want to make my life easier, maybe I should get one that works. And for those of you that are thinking I want to go to Pulseway or Atera, I'm not saying they're bad. They're great to start out with, but once you start saying, I want to start scripting things, and I'm gonna start using variables and all this other stuff that you might not even know how to do, you're gonna figure it out eventually, and you might get frustrated using using the one that you choose if you go with one that's more affordable. Brandon, I'll have to have you show me because the way I did it, it did not work. So, but it's also because I try to do it completely automated without me having to. I'll show you later.
Don't they give you scripts? I remember when I signed up for Umbrella, they gave me a lab tech script that you just kind of put in, installs all its stuff, and you're good to go.
Yes, so they do give you scripts, but you got to remember each customer in Umbrella has its own unique IDs.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
because in LabTech, they put something under the client location. So under the client location, you put those 3
Right.
IDs is, and then it references that automatically, depending on what
And in
client.
LabTech, it actually works.
LabTech, it actually works. It's very nice.
And what I think I was doing, Brandon, was I think I made, I don't know if the right terms anymore. It was like the custom search. And I think I just told it to search and run it on the installer. Run the installer based on what computers are in that search. I don't remember. What thing do you hate the most about LabTech, Matt? Go.
User the interface. And even though I still use the 10.5, you hold shift and you double click somebody and it brings up the old interface. I still use that because I think the new 11 interface is absolutely atrocious with the tiles.
David, what do you hate the most about LabTech?
I'd say the interface. It's they're moving in an interesting direction. They just haven't fleshed it all out yet. So when they get ready, it's going to be 5 steps ahead and maybe only 1 or 2 steps back. But they haven't taken the steps ahead yet. So we've only taken steps back.
Ernest, Kaseya, I know you're new to it. So what's your biggest frustration right now with moving from Continuum to Kaseya?
They still have some components that depend on Flash, which doesn't work in Chrome. So that's probably the biggest issue that I've got right now, especially on the scripting side. Otherwise, everything else on it is functional. They could really do with kind of a UI redesign and relayout, which I think is coming down the road here pretty quick. But it is a very, very, very powerful system. It's not a solution I would recommend to a startup MSP or to an MSP that even a mature MSP that doesn't have the on-site staff and resources to be able to really dedicate a lot of time to it. It is a very, very powerful platform, though. Think of it as the SharePoint, if you will, of RMM tools. It's a platform that you can build your own stack and build your automation and solutions on top of.
I never thought about it like that. Zach, GFI SolarWinds dog. What's your biggest frustration? What do you hate the most about their RMM tool?
Up until recently, like, you couldn't filter anything. Like, my entire process centered around like looking for red and then drilling in and finding it. It's like you can't get specific notifications of like outages. I mean, they've created like a filtering system now where you can create custom views that show you only workstations that had backups fail. Or only workstations that need patches deployed, or only workstations that need a reboot. And you can go and create these custom views and then apply them, and you can view their stuff. As far as the RMM, I hate that it can't monitor or manage network devices easily. Yes, you can set up SNMP on server agents to like poll for certain things and then alert off of that. But it's really hard to set up, and that is actually changing in the future. There's some things coming that will be kind of neat. I can't say much more than that.
It's because if he told us, he'd have to kill us, I think.
No, it's just not. It's just not going to be for a while, and it hasn't officially been announced.
Fair enough. What about protection? And this could be antivirus, anti-malware, advanced detection. What stuff are you installing on your client endpoints and servers to keep them preventing crap happening? Matt.
We use WebRoot, Malwarebytes, and Malwarebytes comes with their regular Malwarebytes, anti-exploit, and anti-ransomware that through LabTech you really can't control. Yeah, I have anti-ransomware installed, and I don't even really know what it does, but hey, I got it.
It prevents ransomware, duh.
Supposedly. I have no logs, no nothing. It's just kind of there. And then also we use Cisco Meraki firewalls with advanced security license for the UTM.
So I use Cisco Umbrella, Meraki firewalls, and I use WebRoot, and I really like WebRoot a lot. Ernest.
Even though WebRoot tries to kill you. WebRoot, what is it, twice a year? They try to get rid of all their clients.
Something like that. So endpoint protection, of course, starts on the edge. It starts on what you're using at, as you mentioned, the firewall side. So OmniNet is our firewall of choice. Sophos is our secondary if more advanced configuration or functionality is needed. On the workstations themselves, it's Webroot, Malwarebytes, Huntress, and though it's not really necessarily considered a security application, we also put Policy Pack on there to manage group policies remotely, which helps lock down a lot of security issues as well.
David?
I run mostly the same stack as Matt. Webroot antivirus, Malwarebytes, OpenDNS, and Sophos UTMs.
Zach?
So I'm running Bitdefender through SolarWinds. I'm doing patching, obviously, through SolarWinds as well, because I feel that patching is a part of protection. I'm also using the SolarWinds Web Protection Agent, which is functionally similar to Cisco Umbrella. I'm also running Intercept X as an anti-ransomware, anti-exploit, anti-persistence layer. We run some Sophos UTMs, some like snort boxes with custom signatures, for like spanning taps and stuff like that. And that's about it usually on the UTM side. I'm working on more than that. We're just rolling out SolarWinds Risk Intelligence to kind of like monitor the actual risk and vulnerabilities of all the workstations to find gaps, which has like helped a lot because they actually do a really nice like PCI based evaluation of configuration and vulnerabilities, as well as an external port scan for each workstation and the edge, which is kind of nice. I am also building a managed SOC service with incident response type services as well, which there's still a lot of detail to be figured out there, but it's
You're
something
going
I'm
to give
working
that to
on.
everyone here for free, right?
No.
Just us.
Just the panelists?
Yeah, just the panelists.
All right. So who here is using Sophos again? Is it just Zach? Okay, so hardware firewalls. XG or SG?
XG.
XG.
And do you have them integrated into your RMM tools as well?
Not yet for me.
I'm working on that.
Yeah, it creates tickets. It pops emails in there and creates tickets, but not like a direct integration, no.
Okay. Webroot. I'm a Webroot guy. Matt, I think David. I thought Webroot did malware. So why are you guys running Malwarebytes on top of it?
Extra layers. Security is like an onion or like a
Don't
parfait.
give me this onion nonsense.
Depends in depth.
I mean, all these products look for more or less the same things. I mean, you've got AV on the UTM layer, you've got some amount of AV on the OpenDNS layer. Like, they all do the same end goal. They're all just differently effective at catching stuff. So by layering them, you hope that the holes in one don't line up with the holes in the other.
How often do you guys run penetration tests? Don't all speak up at once.
That's not a service I offer currently.
Yeah, it's something we're looking into, but haven't found a good solution for that yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you say penetration test, that can mean a lot of things, and some of them very, very, very expensive. Some of them utterly pointless. So, like, that's a really hard question to answer.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
I mean, you could almost do a panel just on that.
Okay, so I know there are only a few of us here as panelists. Feel free to say something in chat if you are using Carver or Silence as your AV security, whatever it is. Because someone just asked if anyone is. I'm not. Any of you guys using Carver or Silence? I didn't think so. Crecor uses Carver on the higher end of package. How do you like it, Crecor? I've heard mixed reviews on it. I actually have someone that just told me they canceled their contract because they have WebRoot and Carver Sentinel-1 on the same computer, and WebRoot detected the issue and remediated it, and Carver just didn't know it happened. So that I just thought was interesting feedback. Dom said DNS filtering.
OpenDNS all day.
Yeah, Cisco Umbrella for just about everyone. Zach uses the one that's built into SolarWinds MSP. Ernest, do you do DNS filtering?
Yeah, that's all done through OmniNet.
Okay. AppRiver Web Protection.
Which I believe is BitTitan or NetTitan or something like that AppRiver is using. I don't remember.
Tyler asked about WebRoot DNS filtering. I believe that's actually what SolarWinds uses, or at least it's what they did use.
They did at one point, but they've actually developed something in-house now that is a little fancy, because it's not just looking at DNS, it's actually examining every packet as it goes out the NIC.
Now, has anyone checked out the new WebRoot DNS filtering? Like, I guess it's brand spanking new.
No.
Okay. Tyler's attending a webinar in an hour. You'll have to report back. Let us know how that goes. Someone's possibly switching from WebRoot to Sophos. Do any of you guys have any experience or advice?
The only thing I'll say on Sophos, it's a decent product. I wouldn't say it's phenomenal, but it's a decent product.
I feel a butt coming.
The challenge I have with Sophos, and I love Sophos, I love their products. If you're using the UTM functionality to also do antivirus scans, you're doing the same scanning at the edge and on the endpoint. You're scanning the same file the same way using the same definitions, which isn't going to catch something. If it slips through one, it's going to slip through both. So that would be my only concern or consideration there. Intercept X is a phenomenal product. The only reason that we haven't deployed it is just due to its heavy resource usage. It tends to slow down a workstation from our testing, and that may have changed. I mean, that was 6 to 8 months ago. But Intercept X is a phenomenal product and does a really good job.
I will definitely agree. I mean, like, what makes Sophos as an entire stack, the UTM plus the endpoint plus Intercept X plus Sandstorm plus is the fact that Intercept X is there. I mean, that was the key component that made it really useful. And the thing that would push Sophos, in my mind, up a little bit with Intercept X is the fact that what Intercept X is finding can be synchronized with the UTM and with the endpoints, and so they become aware of what Intercept X is discovering and mitigating. And the one of the great ones that I saw was when a machine is compromised and Intercept X is like declares quarantine, the machine gets locked down automatically. It's disconnected from the network. It's isolated from everything. It just locks the box down to prevent spread. And this is awesome for situations like WannaCry or Crypto Locker, where like anything that gets onto a machine and then starts groping for network shares to encrypt or whatever, like it locks that down instantly.
I just feel like you should never use the word groping in a webinar. Can I just say that? All right. What about network monitoring? I feel like with how complex things are getting these days, just having your RMM tool isn't enough. Is anyone here using like a CenterSys or Auvik?
I use
CenterSys.
CenterSys. Yeah.
We're exploring Auvik.
Okay. Matt?
I used Auvik for a little while too, and Auvik, it just out of the box had too many challenges. I had to reach out to support on every single device we were trying to monitor, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we know that was working last week, and then we broke it, and then 2 weeks later, oh, it's working again." It's just too much hassle. Interface is beautiful. Functionality, once things do work, is phenomenal. But we found similar functionality with CenterSys, and being able to directly reach out to the developers and have them work on some stuff for us has been fantastic.
Right. Yeah, like I feel like Auvik suffers from what I call lab tech-itis. Like it's awesome, but you got to make it awesome.
Nice. Matt, are you using anything like that?
PRTG.
Okay. So now, is PRTG one of those open source ones?
No. It's a company out in Germany owns it. It's one of those, we were just talking about Discord. It's one of those things where it's you get 100 sensors for free, but then it's pretty steep. 500 sensors, like $1,600, but it's a perpetual forever license.
Okay.
It's one of those pure, straight up SNMP out of the box. It works. You can set up your monitors. The user interface is they have an iPhone app, so you can check out bandwidth on client X's firewall at any time. Has a desktop web interface. For me, it's one of those set it and forget it type deals. The thing, it's great. And I know and somebody was saying that it's a very steep price to go from 100 sensors for free to $1,600 for 500. But I've used PRTG in enterprise deployments where we've had, I think we're around 10,000 sensors. And the thing still worked absolutely perfectly.
PRTG is a phenomenal product, and we use that for an ISP that we're doing some work for. It's a really neat product. It does a very good job as well. It just requires a lot of manual massaging and forethought and planning as to how you want to set up the alerts and the monitoring on it.
I do like a good massage.
Right, and kind of this is a great callback to the open source. Like in all the large, big, mega enterprises that I've worked in, they use Nagios, which is open source, and they actually had a couple of devs that that's what they did. They lived and breathed Nagios, and they can make it do anything we wanted.
Yeah, that's another one of those things too, though, because you have that, and then I used OpenNMS too. But it's one of those you need a dedicated resource to manage it. If you're smaller and you can't dedicate a resource to it, it's one of those things where it gets too complicated too fast. You don't have time to do it the right way. So,
right, exactly.
It really depends on how big you are and your goals.
When you're monitoring 500 sites and 250,000 various endpoints, it's easy to justify a couple of FTEs to take care of that.
Yeah.
So some other people in the chat mentioned Zabbix. Have any of you guys used it or have any thoughts on it?
I've seen it used to very great effect, but it's much like Nagios. The people who were using it had people dedicated to maintaining it and making it awesome.
Excellent. And Logic Monitor. Someone's big fan of that, but it can get fairly pricey. Anyone ever use any Logic Monitor?
And Zabbix is way easier to use than Nagios. Like, I will admit that fully and completely.
SolarWinds NPM. Anyone use SolarWinds NPM or heard of it?
I'm very familiar with it. As many of you might have remembered from back in the day, SolarWinds was all about network management. That was their space. We all remember NetFlow and stuff like that. And SolarWinds NPM is one of their large enterprise network performance monitoring solutions. I think a base license is like several $1,000s.
Okay, so just looking through these questions, Ed asked, which flavor of Malwarebytes are you using? I would imagine none of you guys are using the home version. Business versions are endpoint protection, incident response, and endpoint security. I also thought there was an MSP version offered that was a different version than the above. I could be wrong or outdated on that.
No, he's right. Yeah, there's an MSP version.
Right now, Malwarebytes has version, I think, 1.8, they're calling it, of their business software available for MSPs, and that's what I buy through LabTech. But they have released version 3 of their business platform. It's just not available on the MSP licensing yet.
So
and version 3 is what integrates their if you remember, their home version is now anti-malware and antivirus. Malwarebytes endpoint security is the business version of that it integrates the antivirus in the product as well.
So you're on 1.8,
Mm-hmm.
and they've released 3.0.
Yeah, they skipped a number.
Oh, so it's like Windows 9.
Sure.
Okay. That's cool. SonicWall, anyone here using SonicWall or have used SonicWall?
I've used them, not anymore.
Do you have any experience with GMS?
It sucks. Like, I had a SonicWall, like my old SonicWall rep was like, yeah, don't use GMS, but build your own monitoring solution. Like, literally, that's what I was told.
Okay, then. Tell us how you really feel. Yes, that is why everyone is pairing their Malwarebytes with a standalone AV, Ed, because there is not AV within the Malwarebytes, and because security is like an apple. Wait, that's not right. Security is like an onion. So are ogres. UTM. I think we've got OmniNet. The what's that company called again? Ernest?
Which one? OmniNet?
Yeah.
They're called OmniNet?
They changed their company name?
Yeah, it
They've
used to be My Digital
rebranded.
Shield.
Yeah, they rebranded. They're OmniNet now.
Oh. But if I go to omninet.com, it takes me to a real estate and venture capital website.
Omninet.io.
Yeah, because that's a good idea. That's like having a website with .solutions or something. Like, nobody's going to remember that.
Shots fired.
No, that's cool. Okay, omninet.io. So did anything change with the name change?
Nothing really changed with the name change. They have added a lot of functionality and features, though. You now have VLAN tagging, which is new. They're continuing to improve the product on a very rapid basis.
All right, and then I know we've got some Meraki guys in here.
Awesome.
And then any other UTMs in here? Sophos from one of the people.
I use Sophos over a couple of clients.
Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts on Untangle?
I ripped it out of a client's office once. That's about it.
Same here. Like, I've never been impressed.
And I think when Errol said good, he was asking if the Sophos is good.
It's all right. I haven't spent as much time with it as I should have. I use it for only 2 clients right now. I want to get more in depth with it.
Okay. And has anyone switched from Meraki?
I'm so close, dude. Has anybody? So before that, has anybody used the Meraki's new was it Threat Grid? They make you pay extra money for whatever that service is. They came out with it about a month ago.
No. I never heard of
I
it.
need a demo of it. Yeah, but I've been so disenfranchised with. I tried the Meraki phones. That was the worst thing ever.
I'm sorry.
The Wi-Fi devices are. I mean, why not just buy a Unify AP for $120 and call it a day at most offices? And the switches are just like, I mean, justify that to a business that's like 20, 30 people. Good luck.
That's why you sell them Unify.
I'm moving. Yeah, I'm using Unify switches and APs now. That's a whole different discussion, though.
So Unify.
Matt, Threat Grid is sandboxing, by the way. Just explaining that to you.
What are you guys using Unify for your networking equipment? Like
I
all
am.
of-
I am.
I am now.
Okay. Dom uses the AP switches and cameras, but he hasn't tried the routers. Has anybody used a Unify router and just absolutely loved the experience?
Is
I
that
like
the
it
Edge
a lot.
Max or which is that?
Whoa.
The USG. I'm
Right,
using them in a few places, just like to try them out. I mean, the lack of any sort of UTM is disconcerting. But I mean, like, it's not hard to throw in a snort appliance and tie in a threat intelligence subscription. But
I don't think the hardware can support it is the problem.
right, yeah.
And what about WatchGuard?
I tear those out.
But
Yeah,
why?
same here.
They're so great. And red.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Unify USG. I use it for a lot of my smaller clients. I'm not admittedly 100% bought into that UTM life because for smaller clients, if they don't have servers on site, if they don't have much going on, they only have endpoints. I keep the endpoints protected. And yeah, I'm losing out on a layer, but they also, you don't need intrusion detection if there's nothing to intrude into. They don't have an email server on site. They don't have a web server on site. So I'm not really feeling the burn from not having a full UTM at a small 5-person office. And so for that, I use the Unify USG, and I just love them.
WatchGuards are the SBS of firewalls. I love it.
That is such an apt analogy.
That is amazing. How about so we're still on the networking. What about Datto for their Wi-Fi and switches and that really awesome router they have?
I'm eyeing the Datto DNA appliance
That thing.
just for the LTE. I'm not totally sold on it, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Ian said to the Unify USG response, what do you use for the central management, if anything? Do you have issues with them dropping offline for central management if you ever do use that portion? You just use a controller, right?
Yeah, I just have the Unify controller in a like a $5 VPS online. Have a dozen sites on it, and zero problems.
Perfect. Cost-effective networking just left 15 Datto DNAs for Sophos. Unified routers are improving. It'd be nice if Ubiquiti would expose everything prior to release, but as long as you aren't expecting finished products at release, they're not too disappointing.
Yeah, Unify is a kind of a
Ouch.
perpetual beta.
That's so true.
Scathing.
All right, now sticking with Datto, in the sense that let's talk about backups. So backups, we're gonna have to talk like two different routes. Okay, so first, I feel like we should talk. I don't even know how we should split this. Should we split this servers versus workstations, file folder versus image, companies that don't have servers versus companies that do? I mean, how do you guys determine how you back things up?
Server versus workstation.
Mm-hmm.
I use SolarWinds MSP backup. Like everything gets an image.
Okay. David, what are you doing for your client backups?
I use Veeam to back up servers, and companies that have servers, I put a BDR on site, back up to that, and then I use Cloud Connect to send that off site somewhere else. I try not to add backup endpoints because I like to think of the desktops as being disposable and replaceable. So
How do they feel about that?
mostly okay, because I load them up with a standard image, Office, Windows, whatever they need, and then the RMM pushes out their custom line of business stuff if needed. I like the idea of treating the computers as cattle and not pets, livestock.
Amen, brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I like that.
Because you get this one PC that has the so lovingly taken care of AOL desktop installation and the weirdo Windows 98 version of some old piece of software. That's just going to cost you hours and hours of labor to try to fix later. So you try to wean them off of that and onto a standardized image that you can, if something goes wrong, just roll it out very quickly. You have their files and folders backed up either on site, with folder redirection, or just straight file and folder backup. And you get them back up and running quickly, leveraging your RMM and other tools.
And I have a similar attitude. Like workstations are cattle. I don't care about them, but I still do an image because I don't know what can happen. I've been bitten by all kinds of crazy things. Plus, it only costs me $7 to do a full backup of a workstation. And by having it enabled on the workstations, it contributes to my total storage pool that I can reallocate towards, servers and databases and other things that actually matter. So it's just built into my price, and it's just kind of a belt and suspenders thing.
Precor asked what you're using to image desktops, Zach, but I believe the answer is SolarWinds backup, right?
Yeah, I can build VHDs from that, VHDXs, VMDKs. I can boot an ISO and restore that as an image or a snapshot in time or as an archive image. So I turn on, I do a build for a client with a standard image, whatever. Then I snapshot that per workstation type. If there's varying types, I do what SolarWinds calls an archive point, and basically it's an image I can build if that's a fixed point in time, and I pop the ISO to restore in there and restore that point in time, and there's my base image.
Do you restore from a local device, or are you restoring from the cloud?
Local device.
Okay.
We have a NAS. The service includes a NAS on site that is a replication target for SolarWinds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a two-way sync. So, like, if the NAS goes down, the backups just continue to push to the cloud. If the cloud is down, they push to the NAS, and the NAS synchronizes when the internet comes back, and vice versa. So it's actually pretty great for what it is.
Now, what if it's a laptop and it's not on site?
Still pushes to the cloud.
Okay. Matt, did we cover? You said you use a BDR, or was that David?
Yeah, we use Replibit. Yeah, for us, like I don't touch workstations, and I'm very clear with the clients up front. Like, these workstations aren't being backed up. Either you have an on-prem file server, or you're using, we use Anchor, or so have everything on Anchor, have everything, on the file server, and if you lose your laptop, that's on you. We never really found it useful to back anything up. Yeah, Replibit we found is a good solution. So what we do is we kind of bake that in our all-you-can-eat. So we provide the server. The great thing about those BDR servers, the Replibit BDR servers, you can just build one off Amazon for like $700. Really, it depends on hardware and how many backup images they need. But we lease that to them, so we just own a whole bunch of those. And then just like I said, it's part of the all-you-can-eat backup. So we back up there locally a couple times a day, or however often it's set to. And then from there, we have a server in a data center that we own. That's our cloud backup. I agree with I forget who said it on the MSP forum, but who really owns your backup? You're gonna blame somebody out in Colorado, like they lost all your clients' data, so it's really on you. So I kind of buy into that. I'm like, all right, well, I want to be in charge of my BDR, beginning to end. So we have our own offsite vault that we manage.
When you're doing Replibit, are you building like a custom white box, or are you just buying like a Dell or an HP?
I'll usually buy the Lenovo TS 140s, I think. So I'll just buy bare bones and then just outfit it from there. I mean, usually some of our smaller clients, I mean, they really just have like a DC and file server. So I just, image level back up those two VMs and be good to go.
Someone asked if anyone's using Otaro. I've used it in the past. It's really nice. It's, in my opinion, it's a prettier interface than Veeam and seems to be a little more easy to grasp. However, Veeam is probably still more powerful. I think that's a fair comparison, right, David?
I use Veeam. I've never used Altaro, but I've been very happy with how good Veeam has been.
Yeah, Veeam is great. I use it for like my large customers that have like significant data centers.
All right, so how often are you guys performing images? Daily, hourly?
Daily, at a minimum.
Yeah, same.
Like with my Datto, I think I was doing it every 20 minutes.
Yeah, I do every hour for my customers that have Veeam servers on site.
And for those of you that are using a NAS, are you doing open source, or are you buying a NAS product?
I'm buying NAS products.
I see someone mentioned QNAP.
I feel like that's what all the cool kids use, right? Sometimes I mention I use Synology, and everyone's like, "Why would you use that?" QNAP sounds like the cool hipster.
I think Synologies are better than QNAPs. That's just my experience.
Here's an interesting one. Many of our end users go ahead and save on their desktop and documents anyway. They also get cranky if you disable local save as a policy. So we redirect the target of workstation's desktop and documents folder right into OneDrive. This prevents data loss in the event of theft or crash. Now, Errol, is that to say that those clients don't have servers or a server? Because I would think that if that client has a server, you should just be doing folder redirection using group policy, so that way it redirects their documents and desktop to the server. Which I have a document up in the bonus docs at mspwebinars.com showing you the proper way to set up folder redirections. Just throwing it out there. What would you guys do well, I know, Matt, you're using Anchor.
Yep.
So would you redirect desktop and documents to be part of the Anchor folder?
Yeah.
Is that what
you could either do that, or it just creates like an Anchor folder on your desktop that automatically keeps a local copy if you want to, and then it just automatically links to the cloud. So it's just a folder on the user's desktop. I'm like, everything you want saved permanently, save here.
Now, I can't remember. Is there a way to, with Anchor, say I want to synchronize my desktop folder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's selective sync.
Yeah, you can do arbitrary folders as backups. And so you can have your one Anchor folder that's kind of like your Dropbox folder. Everything in there gets synced up. But then you can also choose arbitrary other folders. And I do this with a couple of clients. I use Anchor as well. You can do like their My Docs, their desktop, and a few others. I just grab those as backups. And so Anchor is a file sync and share, and also using the same kind of technology, it also does file and folder backup.
So I figured out how to do the backup. I guess I was thinking, so I use Dado Drive as well, and I'm kind of testing the two. And there's things I like about Dado Drive and things I like about Anchor. Anchor, LAN sync, Dado Drive, sync all the folders I want. So I've got my laptop and my desktop, and I've got desktop documents, downloads, music, movies, pictures, favorites. All of those are synchronized using Dado Drive between the desktop and laptop. But they don't do LAN sync. That's the one. If they did LAN sync, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Then with Anchor, it doesn't appear that it does whatever folder I want. It has to be part of that synced folder.
Correct. Yeah. For the sync portion, you put it into the Anchor sync folder. The only arbitrary folder choices are the backup folders, which you can still see them in the web UI, but it's not it's not like the sync folders.
Got it. But you can just tell My Documents by right-clicking on it that the new path is synced folder / documents, or Steve document, whatever. So, okay. Errol said because some do not have servers, we just keep it the same across all of them. That's why all of them go to Office 365. Andrew, yes, that is a real plant. Can't you tell by some of its dead leaves? Holy questions. Let's see here. Our solution is custom, built on StorageCraft. ROI is excellent. StorageCraft MSP is much more reasonable. Cloud prices are better now too. Other folders that are outside of the main Anchor folder to confirm. Break fix transition to MSP recently purchased by a WISP. That is a lot of change. Is there a standout monitoring and management solution that has a notable edge when it comes to SNMP?
PRTG. Like if you want a notable out-of-the-box edge with SNMP, PRTG.
I'm too much of a fanboy, dude. I'm gonna say PRTG every single time. So
I don't even use the product, and I'll admit that it has an edge in SNMP.
Yeah, out of the box, it's ridiculous.
Now, if we were just going to look at RMM tools, I feel like Ninja kind of has the advantage there. It might be the only advantage Ninja has. Is their network monitoring component?
That's probably true too if you're taking into account managing workstations and servers.
Yes. If time allows, for those that deal with HIPAA, what tools, software, vendor, etc. are you using? Matt's like, I'm out. I don't do this HIPAA crap. Zach, I bet you're going to be a great resource for HIPAA.
Like, we didn't go with like any particular software or vendor. I mean, like, we just studied the regulations and learned and like developed our own processes. There's some good out of the box solutions I've heard of that are supposedly pretty great. I don't use them. I might when I start onboarding things like, people like account managers and techs and stuff like that, where like, I need like regular training for, multiple people. I mean, because like right now, like I have to be HIPAA compliant. So like I go through all of the same steps and I, go watch some YouTube videos once a year to check the box and say I'm good. But that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, like, obviously I'm not the only person doing this. And I know that there are some good solutions out there. I just don't know what they're at, what they are.
That's fair. David, are you a HIPAA guy?
I'm not. I don't want to take that on right now. I've got a lot more on my plate.
John Harry uses Compliancy Group for HIPAA. And Andy said LabTech has SNMP monitoring, and you can have monitors on those things. You do need a device on site to act as the monitoring host. I use SNMP monitoring to tell when ShoreTel equipment is goofy or down. Tyler,
yeah, SolarWinds has a similar thing. Like you can create SNMP checks from a server.
And Tyler is thinking about avoiding healthcare altogether. If you're thinking about avoiding it altogether, does that mean you currently are helping someone in healthcare, Tyler? Just curious. Yes, and getting away from them. 2FA is standard. A lot of pissed off providers. I recommend learning HIPAA compliance yourself if you want to sell to healthcare. These people want to know that you know the process. Do they though? Because I feel like they just don't care.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Because that's the challenge with HIPAA. I mean, is you have potential HIPAA clients that fall into two categories. Those that care and are willing to spend money on being okay, and those that just don't give a flying rat's ass at all and just want to do what they want to do.
And those that think that HIPAA doesn't apply to them.
Right. Like I get that attitude a lot in client meetings, like potential client meetings. Well, nothing bad's ever happened before. I've never been audited, and nobody I know has ever been audited. So I don't think it's a big deal. And like you can't change that attitude very easily.
I actually have a great way to change that attitude. It's when you go there and you find a bunch of HIPAA violations during the process of when you evaluate to sell, and they say, yeah, we're not going to change any of that. Just say, oh, no problem. I'm just going to go ahead and submit this to whatever place you're supposed to submit that stuff to.
I've thought about doing that. Like I really have.
But don't actually
PCI.
waste all your time doing it. Just use it as the threat to get them to sign on the dotted line.
That's
the
that's
thing,
a little bit too mafioso there. Hey, it's you got a nice pile of HIPAA violations, so you're being awful pity if someone will report them, huh?
I've totally thought that too, dude. So
and like, well, like in my heart of hearts, like I want to do that because screw these people. But at the same time, is that really how you want to start a trust-based relationship? I mean, really?
Right.
So the cat's out of the bag, guys. Somebody asked, where did Ernest go? He had a client emergency. So he was like, screw you guys.
Because at that point, your contract price is just basically your protection money. And if you're
Really,
if you're
what's the difference between protection racket and MSP? I mean, like fundamentally, let's acknowledge that.
That's
Hey, it's an awful nice server you got there. It'd be a pity if it missed checkpoints, huh?
Oh my gosh.
It's a real shame if that server crashed. You know what I mean?
Oh
Hey,
my.
capiche?
Do you guys do any VoIP for your clients?
Mhm.
I do.
Yep. You got to.
Yeah, because if you don't, then they'll go to another company that does VoIP who also
Mhm.
happens to do MSP work.
Yeah.
So I want to
it's almost
speak about
easy money,
VoIP.
though. It's such easy money.
I want to speak about VoIP because I used to work for a telecommunications company, and I dealt with the FCC. So whenever dial tone is in play, there is a compliance and regulatory nightmare that comes along with it, right? So if you're providing VoIP, there are things that you can do and there are things that you cannot do. And the most cost-effective way to provide VoIP is get with a provider that will deal with the FCC end of things for you, and either a white label program or a partnering program, or spin up your favorite cloud-based PBX, connect your clients' phones to it, and then have them pay for the SIP trunks. But you can only do this if you are not providing the internet as part of the service. Because as soon as you become the owner of the dial tone, you must file all the FCC forms, collect all the appropriate taxes, and file all of this in the correct way with the FCC every year. And to put that in perspective, I helped file the FCC form like 433A and C and like a few others. It took the better part of 3 months to gather that data for 5,000 dial tones.
No thanks.
Yeah. And to put this like in perspective about how things like fines work, there was, God, I'd have to look up the name of the telecommunications company, but they were essentially fined $1 million by the FCC because they didn't format their bills correctly.
Ooh.
So, like, this is something you need to think about very, very carefully. I've seen a lot of MSPs be like, I want to do VoIP because everybody's doing VoIP. I'm going to go buy some 3CX licenses, spin them up in AWS, and connect some SIP trunks that I pay for. And then they just provide phones to their customers and be like, all right, I'm a VoIP provider now, and then do nothing about the FCC portion of it when you're providing dial tone. That is a very, very, very precarious position to be in, because if they find out, they will grill you alive.
Now, here's an interesting outlook, in my opinion. What if I'm providing them VoIP phones for free?
It's not about the phone. It's
That's
about
the
the
service.
dial tone. It's the where the dial tone comes from and who owns that relationship.
What if I'm providing the dial tone for free?
You still own that relationship.
You still own the relationship, and you have to file the taxes. Like, the taxes must be collected for the call, and it's billed per minute, which, like, right there, that automatically creates crazy complications, because, like, how the hell are you tracking call detail records? Most business PBXs do not do this. They do not have the functions to do it, because in a private branch exchange, nobody cares about call detail records. That goes to the SIP provider or the analog or TDM trunks. It's not on PBXs to keep track of that. So, to keep track of that kind of stuff, you either need carrier class PBX switches, which there are, there's some software ones out there, but they're ridiculously expensive. Like, you want to go buy a physical carrier class switch. A used one will be in the range of $100,000. Software-based ones, it's less, but still a lot. But it's the dial tone and the service being provided. It's federally controlled and regulated. So it's a gross nightmare. So, like I said, the two ways to get around it are partner with somebody that deals with that for you and provide, either white label or resell their service. Get with a master agent or something like that, or provide, quote, PBX, hosted VoIP or whatever. You provide the PBX, you provide the phones, you provide the connection to the phones, but the SIP trunks that feed dial tone to that PBX must be paid for by the client.
Yeah, we just partner with somebody. It's so much easier. They handle support. I think, what is it? Like, we get like 15-20% of whatever the recurring revenue is. It's so much easier, dude. If they do support, we just lease phones. That's all we do. And they do all the service. So easy.
Right. Yeah, like Ray is a great guy to talk to about
Yeah,
this.
Ray's awesome.
Ray's all
I'm guessing you're selling Ray's stuff.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, no.
I've never been in a Discord channel before, ever.
Never.
Zach,
Never
are
at
you
all.
in Discord?
I think I am now. I joined a Discord that you mentioned. I've been talking to Ernest there.
Oh, okay, good.
So I'm guessing I'm there.
Matt, you partner with Ray. Zach does an FCC, ETC fall on trunk providers.
Actually, I resell Intermedia.
That's another easy one to do. Let's see.
Yeah. I was doing their stuff long before I met Ray, so it works for me. Like, I've got the integrations I want, and I might switch someday, but when you got somebody else doing it, it's kind of dummy proof. And if your cost calculations are already figured out, yeah.
Nice. What else? Real quick, Matt. Is there anything else in your stack that you didn't get to mention? Just the names of the tools.
No, but real quick, what I wanted to say is super quick is that being we started about 2-3 years ago. I spend so much time looking at tools, and I was huge in the subreddit, and reading the Discord all the time, and I'm like, I was worrying so much about selecting the right tool. And I know a lot of people are like, well, there's like 3 different options, and everybody either craps on one of the options or the other one's like the favorite. It's like, just do your research, make a decision, and just go for it. I've been so back and forth just listening to everybody else and kind of letting them, persuade me. Like, I just bought this, and then, I hear one person say, oh, no, that's a terrible solution. Don't go that way. And for me, it was such like an internal conflict that I always have to pick the right thing. So I think it's like, whatever works for you, just make sure it works for you. Just go with it, no matter what anybody says, unless it's some, gross exaggeration that they're making, just make something that's right for you and just pick it and go with it.
Right. And I can speak to that a little bit more because when starting out, like everybody says, like, well, just pick what works for you. But most of these people starting out in their one-man shops, they have no idea what works for them because they don't know how they want to work. Like, it's difficult to know what you need when you don't know what you're going to do, and you don't know what you're going to do until you start having clients. So, like, my mantra is pick something. There's so many options out there. Some of them are crappy but super cheap. Go with crappy or super cheap to figure out why it's crappy. If you don't understand why it's crappy, you don't know what you need to move to. And it's a great kind of like starting point to help build your processes, build your service offerings, then maybe transition to something that's better for what you're trying to do, or to something where you want to reshape your service offerings. Aterra is a great choice for this because it's unlimited agents and per user for their system, but it gives you kind of like all the little starting blocks you need. Like for those of us who've been in the game for a while, we understand that it's not going to work for us, but I feel a good starting point for somebody just starting out. Get your Aterra, pay your $50 a month, start selling a monitoring only plan, figure out what the hell you're trying to do, and then start developing a service offering from that. I mean, like, unless you've got $100,000 to sit and float on for a couple of years, you need to start making money. And
Don't be ridiculous.
Like, don't get all tied up in trying to, buy LabTech and ConnectWise and then realize that you need 400 plus hours to actually get it to where it's useful, when you need to be out there hitting the streets, bringing in revenue. There's value in like jumping into the pool, but don't jump into the deep end.
That's so right, man. This is exactly what I did when I started too. It was the same thing. Like, all right, everybody's saying I need this. All right, let's buy this. And then it was so overwhelming. It's like, this isn't what you need, man. You need clients right now. You don't need to sit there for 2 weeks and, get ConnectWise or LabTech perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If I can provide a counterpoint, I'm also about 2 years old, but I transitioned from break fix, so I've been kind of floating on my break fix money.
Right. Transitioning from a viable break fix business into MSP is a different process than like I'm gonna file an LLC and like I'm gonna go start a business.
Yeah,
like,
I'm quitting my job today.
Yeah. Like that's a different situation, and there's plenty of people that can speak to that. I mean, like, look at MSP in a month. Like, that book is a great example of how to do a transition from one viable business to a different viable business. It's about business transformation of an existing business. It's not how to do it from scratch.
Sure.
Scratch is completely different. It's a completely different type of transformation. It's because like if you're coming from a break fix business, you probably have a pretty solid understanding of like what you need day to day because you've been doing it day to day on a billable basis. Whereas if you're just starting out and you just came from that corporate IT gig, then like you have no idea what you need. I mean, corporate IT is way, way, way different than managed services. And like it's a harsh reality check for those wanting to make that transition. And for them, I feel it's best to like go to the shallow end and jump in. Because you're not going to learn to swim by reading manuals and building a swimming apparatus when you don't know what swimming is.
Yeah. For me, when I was just starting out, I signed up with ConnectWise and LabTech, pretty much from day one, because I saw that that's where a lot of businesses eventually ended up at. A lot of the big boy MSPs, they ended up with ConnectWise and LabTech.
Right. Yeah. And there's a saying I've heard that all roads end at ConnectWise.
Pretty much. And I was of the mind that I didn't want to be 3-4 years invested into another product and then realize that I wanted to switch or that I had to switch and then I'd be starting from zero. And then on top of that, I'd have 3-4 years of data and clients and computers to migrate over. And then I'm starting from scratch, learning the integrations, learning the scripting, all of that. Whereas here, I grow up with ConnectWise and LabTech, and I learn everything. And so 5 years from now, I'm just 5 years more invested and better at ConnectWise and LabTech than looking at switching providers and starting from scratch.
Right. Yeah. And there's definitely value to that. Mm-hmm. And like, it helps that you transitioned from break fix because you had methodologies, you had SOPs, you had documentation of various things, I'm guessing. And like, that's a lot of legwork that if you're just starting out, like you literally have no idea what all that is or how to do it. Mm-hmm. And just being able to have a tool to start trying to do some of that doesn't cost, thousands of dollars is a great starting point. I mean, you talked about starting from scratch. Like, I feel like if you dove into like something like Atera and started developing processes and developing SOPs and writing, knowledge base articles, you can then turn that into templates and things like that you could then overlay on top of another solution as you're transitioning, as you're growing, as you're maturing. So you're not truly starting from scratch. You're taking a framework and adopting new tools and possibly new methodology. And it's a maturation process. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work for everybody. Like, I'm not saying that's the only way to do that, but I think for that one guy who's got that itch to work for himself and wants to hit the ground running, like, I feel that's like a good starting point.
So it is actually 10 minutes past the time we should have wrapped up. I just want to say quickly that I've been in business for over 8 years now, and I'm the guy that would change my tools a lot. For the first 7 years of being in business, I did the math. I think on average, I changed my RMM or PSA once every 3 months. And I've gotten picked on a lot for that in Discord. Don't do it. They all suck, I assure you. I've used them all at least twice. You just have to figure out which one sucks the least for you. If you want to narrow it down at least and make sure that the ones you're looking at have the types of features you're looking for, check out that RMM spreadsheet. It's rmm.msp.zone. I will put a link here in the chat. Check that out. That'll give you a great starting point for everything from features, capabilities, remote access, scripting, all that stuff, to pricing and contract length, and integrations. So that's a good place to start when it comes to picking your RMM tool. When it comes to picking a PSA, if you're going to pick an actual PSA instead of using something like a Zendesk, then you need to make sure it's going to integrate with all the other tools you use, and you need to make sure that it's going to help you automate the things that you needed to automate.
Have you been looking for a way to stay focused on your goals and grow your MSP? Accountability groups from RocketMSP can help. We offer weekly accountability sessions that meet online with a group of your peers. Your success begins with accountability. Go to www.rocketmsp.io to join your accountability group today.